Confidence then. Could I have a show of hands for anybody who thinks they are between 5 and 10 confident naturally? And then before you put your hands up, see, you have to ask those first. The people who are 0 to 5 or 4.9, I'm going to ask you to put your hands down, so much lower. So I'm assessing the shoulder movement. Is that all right? Okay, can you do that then? 5+ is up. Oh, look at that. And I can't, there's only a couple. Why are you here? Oh, you want to be 10, not 5.5? Could we go with 6.5? Okay. Thank you, all of you, for turning up. I don't know what has motivated you to turn up, and possibly it's just the whole concept of confidence. It's a very curious thing, and everybody talks about it. But my job, what I do half the time, is I work with individuals, leaders, people in business, and help them become more effective. And quite often that's about confidence in themselves, and confidence when they're with groups. So I get a sense for who's in the room. Who presents in any form? You put your hand up. So that's most of you as well. Okay. Who's got a piece of paper they've got access to? Okay. Have you got enough to share with the people that didn't put their hands up? And I'd like to draw a circle. In fact, I'll draw a circle. And there's going to be, let's think, there's a 12 o'clock, but there's a 1 o'clock. So that's all you need to do. And at 1 o'clock, which is the starting point of this hour, or 60 minutes, or 5 past, or whatever you want to call it, I'd like you to write a statement that describes how confident you are right now. So you might want to discuss it with the person next to you so you can unravel it a little bit more, but how confident are you? What describes, how easy do you find to stand up and speak? Don't look at me, it's your statement. I've given you no more context. Yes, I would like you to write at your 5 minutes past the hour mark a statement that describes how confident do you really feel. I am confident. I have a little bit of doubt. I'm fairly assured. If you need to ramble and put commas in and make it a lovely long sentence, then do that. Just describe, as if you were to tell somebody. In fact, do that. Turn to the person to your side and tell them about your confidence. And if this works well, they'll have turned as well, so you'll be talking to the back of their head. Okay, that's enough. This is a sentence. It's only a small piece of paper. So has everybody landed a sentence? Okay, anybody prepared to share their sentence? Oh, there's one in the corner. Thank you very much. What's your sentence?
Pretty sure I could get up and speak to the room without feeling nervous.
Very good. I'm pretty sure I could stand up and speak to the room without feeling nervous. Can you? Okay, let's take another one. Thank you.
I'd be happy to come up and speak unless it's on the telephone.
Unless it was on the telephone.
I'm much happy talking to this.
Ooh. Ooh. There's some things you're making up about the telephone that you don't know. It's like little programs running. If I was to Control-Alt-Delete on your head and have a look at the programs that are running in there, you ever done that Control-Alt-Delete and there's all these SVC files and DLL files and all those? What do? There's hundreds of them, and they're just clicking, registering. They're using up energy and power. You think, oh, I'll just delete them. I remember doing that once years ago, and everything stopped. So don't do that. Anybody in IT here? No, good. And even if they were, they put their hands down now. Yeah. Yes, but there's stuff going on. You've probably got some programs running in there that are making stuff up about what's going on for you on the telephone. It's very interesting. Worth exploring with someone, because you could unplug them and realize that actually they're not true. And I know some people on the telephone who similarly don't like that. It's very interesting. I didn't used to like the telephone. I had a career selling, and obviously lots of the initial calls were on the telephone and trying to beg for appointments and beg to speak to the person. So I'd made some stuff up about the telephone, and then I shifted my career in year 2000, and I began coaching. And most of my coaching at that time was on the telephone. And somebody usefully observed, they went, "Oh, you used to hate the telephone, now your job is on the telephone." Instantly flared up my fear again. You're right. And so for the next few weeks, my coaching calls weren't very good because the inhibitions came back. So it proved to me that I had stuff going on, so I needed to unplug those. Does that make sense? But it's worth doing. Anyway, thank you for allowing me to obsess on that one briefly. Okay, so you've now got a sentence that describes your 5 minutes past. Now, I would like to speak to somebody different that you spoke to a minute ago. So it might mean you need to turn to someone else. And their job is to listen to you. You're going to tell them what your first sentence was, and they're going to send you into orbit and put your 12 o'clock statement here, which is the I am then. And it has to be almost ridiculous that you can't believe it. I am a world-class speaker. I am in demand for my speaking skills. I am whatever. Start filling that in. See how far you can push it so that you feel almost ridiculous writing it down. Does that make sense? Yeah. Who in this room feels uncomfortable with this statement on their 12 o'clock point? Good, we've got a few. If you're not uncomfortable, it's not a stretch. And quite often what the brain does when it comes to confidence, you don't even realize it's set a range. It's already set a parameter in which your confidence will exist. And you don't even realize, but it's pretty fixed. So your brain won't allow circumstances, emotions, feelings beyond its range top point. Does that make sense? So all I'm encouraging you to do here now is just go way beyond it, just to test that boundary, just to push it a bit more. Because otherwise there's nothing else over there for you. You'll reach your top point almost like, yes, this. It's rather like an elastic band. Imagine a big elastic band. And it's nailed into the ground here, and your feet are at this end here. So are you with me on this? So we're pushing and pushing, and you go through life, and you're given an elastic band by your parents or your circumstances or whatever's turned up in your life so far, and you stretch your elastic band, and eventually you get to a point that, I can do that, that's good. But there is a tolerance point in an elastic band. Eventually it starts to hurt a little bit, and you'll feel it, and you've got a bit of chafing around your ankles. Anybody who's worn really tight socks, have you worn tight socks? You know when you take them off at the end of the night and you've got that inner ring and your leg goes like this? That's too tight a sock. Anyway, it's a bit like that. So really pushing on you here, and you reach that point. But this is the range. You're almost reaching your range now. An elastic band can't go past a certain point. It doesn't just keep stretching, does it? Oh, thank God. You were saying, well, perhaps it does. What do I do now? So keep stretching. And what happens then is when you're having a low ebb or your confidence level dips for whatever reason, the elastic band will pull you back. It won't pull you all the way back. It'll pull you back to the point that you don't get the sock chafing thing going on again, just about here. What I'm trying to do this morning for you all is to get you to go back to the beginning, pick this peg up, and put it here, so you can go again. Is that fair? Okay, that's what we're trying to do. I just made that up. Okay. So you've got, that's right, what we're doing. Pen. I had the blue pen, there it is. Okay, so you've got a 5 past and a 12 o'clock. I encourage you, not today, because I've so many other things I want to tell you about, to have at least 3 other points on that circle that can, and you can try and step them up and move towards them. So whatever your I am statement was right now, there will be one that's right in front of you. And possibly the conversation you just had was about that. Which is, that's cool. But I would suggest the fact that you're here and you're talking about confidence and you had your hands up saying, yeah, I am confident, means that I think for most of you, this is possible. The more outrageous this is, the more likely you are to make your way around. Yes? Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Confidence, yes. Who likes structure? You're at the wrong gig. Confidence boosters. What boosts your confidence? Feedback. Alcohol. Knowledge. So when you have more knowledge, you feel more confident. Okay. Repetition? Interesting, repetition. So that's a little bit like knowledge. Once I've repeated it, I know what's going to happen. Okay, cool. Practice. Similarly, do it again, makes you feel more confident. Okay. Success. Having had success, or you've got some success now? Okay. Taking a risk. That's interesting. So that's a no confident place first. Then you do. How do you do that? And then you do it, and then you get the feedback loop. Okay, that's cool. Anything else?
You're just working through the fear.
Yeah. So you're proving to yourself you can get through the fear. Very good. Pushing a boundary. So that's it. You push a boundary. I've done it once. I can do it again. Pretty much all of what you've said feels a little bit to me like it's contingent on something else. So the state that you described when you've got the feedback, when you've got the knowledge, when you're in the point of I'm doing this now for the fourth time, that state, whatever you're thinking about and feeling at that point, is yours now. I'll say that again. It means that if you stood up on a stage, well, let's think, what's the most confidence-draining situation you can possibly think of yourselves as being in? Don't tell me, because a lot of people could say it at the same time. Just consider what that might be. So it might be somebody saying at the last minute you're going to do the presentation for the first time, 1,000 people, accountants, maybe. I did that. I spoke at an event. It was the Institute of Chartered Accountants for Scotland. Spoke there. What was it? Andrew, when was that? September last year. Thank you very much. September last year. And I thought, great, good gig. They paid good money. They flew me to Scotland. There was a car waiting for. It was just big time. I felt so big time. The car was waiting for me at Edinburgh Airport, and I didn't just get in it. I got in the back. Oh, and drove there. And the driver didn't speak to me the entire time. That's how cool it was. I got there, and the conference was already underway when I got there, and I walked in. And in fact, who's the guy who... Nick Leeson. Nick Leeson was the speaker before me. And he went down like you'd imagine Nick Leeson went down, with accountants in the room. So the atmosphere was, oh, yeah. And it's an interesting story, and I'm not here to tell you about Nick Leeson, but I'm going to. He's quite sad now, because obviously his whole life changed. Everything in his life changed. So he's speaking from the point of how does he recover and what's he got to give back. Anyway, I walked in, big time Simon's turning up. So I'm sort of feeling confident, but also, because it's a range boundary for me, I'm also feeling a little bit overawed by the big timeness, because I'm just Simon. So I walk in, but the confidence is saying, you're awesome, you're awesome. You're awesome. And I walk on stage, and I've only got 2 or 3 slides. They said I have to have slides, whereas Tom said I didn't have to have slides. It's good. I don't really like slides. So the big, massive Simon Tyler, huge Simon Tyler. And I walk in, there's 600 people in the room. And I walk in the room, and I turn and look at the audience and smile or do some random start as I did this morning. And I would say 50 to 60% of them were staring at me like that. The other 40 to 50% were looking down at their desks. Oh, this could be the toughest audience I've had. Anyway, so I'm describing that situation. Have you ever had that? In those confident draining moments, that is when you need the feeling of I've done this several times, I have the knowledge. So I would encourage you, after today, we could do that work now, to spend some time thinking about, maybe journaling about what I am like when I have the knowledge, the repetition, I've practiced, I've experienced success, I've broken through, whatever it might be. What am I like? Because that set of physical state or the thoughts you have, the feelings you have, are available to you. You can shortcut to them, and it feels a bit odd, but you can access them then. And that's exactly what I did in front of the ICAS audience in Scotland. I thought, I feel right now, I can feel my whole body start to tremble, and the messages coming in my head were, you're an idiot. And it was a squeaky little voice in my head as well. You're an idiot, you're an idiot. You've got nothing to say, you've got nothing for them, they won't like you, you're going to have an hour of stony silence. And I could hear all these messages going on, they're all kicking off in my head. And I thought, I've got a choice here. Because what I've discovered, the amazing thing is thoughts just happen. So thoughts just happen. We get a choice about whether we think them or not. And I discovered that definitely about myself, my own journey, but with clients too. So it sounds odd, but thoughts pretty much are just drifting across that might be fired by the environment we're in or the people we're with or whatever it is, but the thoughts are happening. We get to choose whether we think them or not. And if you do choose to think one of them, we're brilliant at thinking. We go off down that tangent. So I could have grabbed any of those little comments that you're going to make it rubbish, they're not going to like you. And I could have grabbed that thought and thought it. And I was just hold it tightly and think it. And when you think a thought, funny enough, you pop some more thoughts come out of that. And they're probably related to that awful one that I chose to grab. And I'll go off down that tangent. And before I know it, morning. I'm Simon Tyler, and I talk about simple things and so on. It could happen because everything starts to change. Your physicality changes. There's aspects, all of us will have, and I think I talked last year about everybody will have sets of muscles, sets of body combinations that are related to, we've learnt, that are us at our worst and us at our best. And quite often, lots of people do tell me it's the pair of muscles in the back of the neck. Tighten up and clamp. And some people get shoulders up and then they're nervous and then their hand signals get smaller and they start talking about the little box and so on. Back to my point. I'm going off at a tangent here. Just keep me back on. So, at the ICAS conference, I thought, I need to go to that place where I have the knowledge, where I've done the repetition, where I've broken through, where I've had the success. I thought, okay, well, what's that like? And because I've thought about this quite a lot, because I think quite a lot about things, I thought, I know what that's like. And I'd pace around, and I'd stand still, and I'd start again. Because what I'd chosen to do was think some other thoughts that weren't actually available at that time. I had to manufacture those thoughts. I'm off the range. You said don't go any further than that, didn't you? Sorry. Sorry about that. So just don't think things. You should go off at a tangent then. So, what was I? Oh yeah, I remember. So you get to choose a different thought, and that can change your whole physical state. So I'm alerting you to the fact that you can get those now. They're available to you now, but initially you need to work on them quite hard because your very clever brain will disbelieve it and say, well, it's not true. It's not true. Well, nothing's really true until you decide it to be. What's that Shakespeare quote? Who knows that Shakespeare quote? No, that's one of them, definitely. Nothing is until we make it so. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was it, wasn't it? Was that Star Trek? Was that written by Shakespeare? Maybe. Okay. So what I would like you to do now, which which is, I know it's uncomfortable, I know you've all eaten croissants and what have you, and it's all, I would like you to stand up. I've just gone, okay, come back. So, I would like you to strike a power pose. And you're almost doing it now, at the back of the room. Look at you. Yes, with a silk scarf. So, your power pose, and you might, in order to find your power pose, you might need to think of a superhero that is your favourite, or somebody that you feel a liken to, Wonder Woman, Superman, whoever it might be. But your power pose is a place where I would like you to find, unlike, your hands aren't going to be in your pockets, and your hands are not going to be joined. The rest of the, so that's safety. So we'll come back to that in a minute. So your hands will be away from your body somewhere. Inside went croaky then. I'll come back to that too, maybe, if we've got time. So I would like to strike the power pose. So if it was Superman, it would be that. Slightly leaning forward. And he stands like this as well, doesn't he? Like that. So can you find one? Okay, and whilst you're holding that, can you look at a person that you feel a degree of trust with, either side of you, and encourage them to up it a little bit more? Because some of you will never make the vigilante corps, I can tell you. So it's got to be as big and as whatever it is. The more I get like Jeff Capes, so maybe Jeff Capes is where I'm going. Have you got that? So, the people that are shaping you, are they up it? Come on, up it. Come on, Anne-Marie, you can do it. Come on, you're powerful, running maybe. So get it there, and what I'd like you to do is when you find it and you've been pumped up, hold it, because inside you now, the little part of your brain that says, this is ridiculous, is asking you to bring your hands down. So keep it there and clench those buttocks just slightly. So buttocks and thighs, clench buttocks and thighs, and hold that for just a few more seconds. Andrea, clench. You're too nice. You look like the angel of the north. Come on, clench. Okay, you've got that. That's called your power pose. Hold it, and relax. And sit down. The likelihood is you have just in that moment, even though some of it was funny and you felt yourself laughing, you've kicked off a number of body chemicals that are related to endorphins and serotonin and all the good stuff that you want to have running around your body. That is, in essence, you've kick-started your body, you've made your brain go, what's going on? And so on. And you said, I'm here. And if you can hold that pose for 30 to 60 seconds, it will change what's kicking off around your body and possibly break you through any chance of low confidence feelings kicking in. If you're just about to go on stage, don't do it at the edge of the stage. Maybe. I'd love to fly on. How cool would that be? Could be strapped on and I just fly on. That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. Okay. Oh, you're writing that down vigorously. Look how fast you're writing that down. Thank you. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, we've built a little bit of trust up here now. I would like you to find somebody else in the room who you don't know. Which is possibly anybody in this room, but it means you've got to stand up and go and find them. And in fact, I'll go threes, so you feel a bit more comfortable in a three than you will a two. Because two people, you're just staring at each other like this all the time. Whereas at least if there's three people, you can look away a little bit and come back. You know that some people can't hold eye contact for very long. And that's okay. So when they're looking away, it doesn't mean they're disinterested. It's just they're in and out lookers. Whereas some people are very staring. Your job, together, is to make some statements about what you see. What is that person like? So, A, as long as you're okay, so what do you say? Which is, I'm sensing a little bit unsure. I think I'm hearing timid. I'm a little bit timid, maybe, because of the environment we're in, possibly. So that's what we're doing. Just try and find 5 or 6 words that describe that person. Okay, pause there. So it's difficult. Probably you will have been quite respectful, I'm sure. I'm going to encourage you to be a little bit more disrespectful, because this is an opportunity for you to help A really make a shift. How are we on time, by the way? I could go on. Have we really? Oh, so much more. Okay. So help them. Make the statement. So here, I just allow yourself to just experience that person. Think, what's going on? So I looked at your name, sorry, is? Felix. Felix. Thank you. You want me to? You right? So we've got a trust thing going on, me and Felix. We've known each other for 10, 20 minutes. And because he chose, his comfortable stance was hands behind his back, feet slightly wide apart, and there was a little bit of a flex. So I saw a sergeant major or a policeman stance, like this. I thought, well, that's interesting. So that's all it comes across, and whatever that might stir up in people. And we talked also about obviously, because they're on the spot, a little bit of uncomfortableness or lack of confidence in the smile. Does that make sense? So just have another couple of minutes and just don't have to tell them, tell the person you're with what's their vibe. Go on, another couple of minutes. Okay, what you've just done is you've just described, possibly, and first of all, say thank you to A for being the guinea pig. Thank you, A. You've just described what people, consciously or unconsciously, will have picked up about A when they just arrive. What your job now is, B and C, is you're going to be sculptors. And you're going to re-sculpt A gently and with permission. You need to ask if it's okay to touch A. And you might have some boundaries, but that's up to you. Are you okay for us to just... Felix is fine, because we go back. Okay, and your job is just to find a slightly more confident shape for A. So you might want to just gently work on the shoulders, sometimes push the chin just in, the head might need to go up just a little bit more. They might need to just widen their stance maybe and just flex the knees a little bit and find a better position for A that is more confident. And A, while this is happening to you, you will feel dreadful because they're changing the way your body has got used to standing. Go with it. It will feel stiff and clunky, go with it. In essence, when I'm working with Felix, it just felt as I walked round him to re-sculpt him, it was a case of I want to bring the shoulders just slightly forward, but not so they're curving forward, just slightly forward. And it meant I asked him to lean back a bit more because Felix's natural state was almost leaning too far forward. So I got him to stand up a bit straighter. I got him to lift his head higher, push the chin in. And when we were working with the hands, we thought, okay, we didn't know where to put the hands. It looked slightly better with one hand in his pocket. Just one. 2 hands in the pocket communicates the wrong things all the time. Not sometimes, all the time. That doesn't communicate. If I was presented to you right now, it's difficult because obviously there's a stage, but what are you getting?
Lack of interest.
A little bit lack of interest, absolutely. One hand is okay. One hand is okay. So, hence we got Felix to put one hand in the pocket. And Felix was feeling a little bit uncomfortable because we straightened his feet up as well, put a little bit flex in the legs, and obviously the body, sorry Felix, but his body naturally is wanting to go back to its old place. But I'm asking you, A, to stay there. My son had a big brace thing in Bath orthodontics, very, very good. And strangely, he had really madly wonky teeth and put the brace in. And they looked fantastic. But you know what you've got to do when you have brace work after the braces have come off? You've got to put the retainer on. And if he took the retainer off, before long the teeth would just go back because they're used to it. It's a programmed setting. So the retainer had to go on every night for whatever it was, 3 months, and then several nights a week for however long it was, until eventually the teeth brain unit went, get it, and stuck that way. And the less he didn't, typically on my side, he didn't put it on all the time, so there's a little bit of shift, but he's still got beautiful teeth. Make sense? Yeah. So that's what we're doing here now. So whatever your B and C friends have done to you, A, you will feel thoroughly uncomfortable, and your teeth, metaphorically, will want to go back to their original position. That's a good position. Morning, everybody. Who's that? That's,
Someone's just been bold.
who's, yeah, absolutely. Who's the comedian in the 1940s and 50s? Normal Wisdom, thank you very much. Normal Wisdom. So some of my Normal Wisdom stands. Normal Wisdom. Some of you have never heard of Normal Wisdom, have you? You do. I have sat next to Normal Wisdom. He was made of bronze because there's a bench. No, honestly, there's a bench in the Isle of Man, which I think is where he's from. He does that, and I sat next to him. Anyway, irrelevant. So, what were we talking about? Oh, yeah. So, when you worked on A, some other things will have come up. So, in essence, when we were looking at A, Felix, I can call you A or Felix, can't I? So, when we were looking at A, what we were picking up was slightly more confident, a little bit more chilled almost, and more comfortable in this bonkers situation that we've just set up. So, is this making sense? This is your opportunity to do something with it. Oh, I'm a bit teapot at the moment. I don't know. Whatever they have done to you, try and record it. Take a mental photograph of it. Feel the discomfort points. And then when you get home, in a full-length mirror, go back to that and mentally and visually take a photograph of it, because you won't be seeing whatever they've done to you. And then you can go there every morning, put the retainer on, go there again, go there again. It feels thoroughly uncomfortable, but you will communicate different things. I did this with a group of, you can grab a seat, because it's, I like you standing up, because I feel like we're on a par. I did this with a group of people at your employers. In fact, it wasn't the program you were on. I did it in 2004, 13 years ago. And the two people I did it with have they got significantly senior postings and got careers. Now, I think it's totally down to what I did with them and this thing. But in essence, we got, just as we did there with A, I got this chap, and I'll call him, for the sake of argument, Michael, because that's what his name was. And I got him to stand in front of the room and just stand there in front of the room, and invited this group of people, and because they're in the same company and they sort of knew him, they had no worries at all with being disrespectful. They went straight for it, and they went uncomfortable, nervous, lost, all sorts of things. And he's hearing this, and his face is scripted. Really? That's what I communicate? So I took him outside, and me and somebody else, and we did the moulding exercise. We reshaped him and asked him to walk in. And of course, in the reshaping exercise, you forget how to move. So he can walk in. So eventually we got him in. We wheeled him, put him on those little wheelie trolleys, and we wheeled him. We didn't do that. We got him in, and we got him to stand there in his new moulded shape. And everybody was agog. And they were amazing, confident, strong, decisive, and he was shocked. He experienced the people in the room just picking up what seems ridiculous, but you get it, don't you? I don't need to say this anymore. We're done on this. We must be nearly finished. 5 minutes, thank you. I wrote down some things I might talk about. I haven't talked to any of them. Oh, what would be really good? We've done that. Oh, no. I know what I'll do. I'll finish off with words. The words you use. Who has got a repeating phrase that they always say? Or word? Who are the ummers in this room? Ummers? Any errors? Any actuallyers? Actually? Oh, actually? Any likers? Well, it's like this, like that. Everybody like. Yeah, you're like my children. Other phrase. Anybody else got a recurring phrase? You know. Who are you knowers? Yeah. And say again? Yours. Yours. You know that.
He says, you know that, don't you? Tells you what you know.
I'm in trouble, look.
You are in trouble.
Simon, I don't need you.
Okay. There's somebody else. There must be. Is there another event coming up that can help them? So you know that, don't you? So we could go into all sorts of potentials and what that might mean. That's you're hoping that the person gets what you're saying. You're trying to get to parity. You know that, don't you? So you're asking people to get to here with you. I don't know what it might be, but we could all project into there what it might be. So if you have got a repeating phrase, that's all that people hear. That's all they hear. And they, at some level, they don't know they're hearing it, but eventually they will at a conscious level. So if you say like, you know, yeah, you know. And have you ever been to a presentation and somebody's a you-knower? And eventually you can't resist it. I'm going to tally this. They did 17 you-knows in the last 5 minutes. What do they talk about? I don't know, but they said no. See what I did there? I'm encouraging you to hear it. If you've got a trusted friend who can alert you to it, ask them. Ask them when you next speak. Ask them when you next say anything to anybody in any environment to tell you what your recurring phrase is. Because you need to be alerted to it now. Because it's shifting and changing the way you come across. And that word and phrase quite often is connected to lack of confidence. It's an infill. Some of the people I've worked with on presentation skills, they're fearful of the pause. Because they think people are going to jump into the pause and steal the thunder or get the wrong end of the gist and won't get the right point. So the pause is your replacement for your repeating word. Because the wonderful thing is, when you do pause, a number of things happen. One, people hear what you just said a second time, almost as if it's gone round St. Paul's Cathedral, Whispering Gallery, and they hear it a second time. And the reflectors in the room, of which at least 1 in 4 people are a reflector, they hear things twice. And that's when they internalize it or do things with it. So the pause is really powerful. So people, one, will hear that. He's going to feel really bad coming into the coffee shop right now. Where was I? You're supposed to be keeping me on track.
Am I?
Yeah.
I was reflecting.
The other thing is people will feel very, very hurt. They'll feel the point you just made. It's like underlining the point you just made. I've lost it now. Completely lost it now. Have I made the point? I've made my point. Sometimes you make a point and you just keep going. You don't need to make it anymore. It's done. I've made my point. Whatever you wrote down at 12 o'clock, revisit that. There are some things you might want to do with the stuff we've talked about today, not least of which, obviously, buy a book. That's right. You might do. But whatever you wrote at 12 o'clock, I would suggest, because we did this right away at the start of today's conversation, you're unlikely to have really pushed yourself. And nearly everybody in this room put their hands up at the start and said, yeah, I am confident. Great. Well, we've got a group of people here who potentially this could be, we could start a new company of global speakers here. We could go and speak about any subject, be it engineering or what you're doing over there, and I'm sure it's good stuff you're noting on your phone over there. No, I know it is, because... but we could, if we're all that confident, we could really go for it. Should we start a company? Let's have a global speaking business, all of us, we could do it, because you've already started there. Whatever you've put here is the stretch, and the steps on the way will take you there. I don't know how to finish. I've finished. Thank you.